What is going on, everybody? My name is Earl here. What I have here is a 2017 13-inch MacBook Pro. And you already guessed it. There is something wrong with this MacBook. Now, I got this from a sketchy seller on Facebook Marketplace for around $160. I figured, why not mess around with this thing? This is actually not too bad of a deal, right? Well, he did disclose that the battery was on its last legs, but he did not specify that it was completely dead as soon as you start using it, because there just wasn't enough voltage to really use the computer itself. So right now it's fully functional. As you can see, we have 2.3 GHz dual core i5, 640 Iris Plus graphics, 8 GB of RAM, and this is running its latest version, Ventura. Let's go ahead and go to the battery cycle right here. As you can see, we have a service recommended for the battery, but in a bit, this thing will just shut down randomly. You know what I'm gonna be doing with this MacBook in a bit. Less than 1700 milliamps of full charge capacity. How many cycles does this thing have? It only has 178 cycles, which surprises me because I'm hoping this doesn't have any liquid damage. Hence why, because that's also another thing. It could cause some issues if this thing is liquid damage. I mean, so far, everything else is working perfectly fine. The keyboard sometimes has a accidental double presses, which is really another thing that is wrong with this MacBook. You really can't do anything about that because that's really the design flaw from Apple. These butterfly keyboards just do not last long, especially once the years go by and a lot of dirt has gone inside them. Yeah, they're one of the worst innovations from Apple. They barely have any travel on them, so it's like typing on an iPad or something. Another thing with these 2016, 2018 MacBook Pros, in fact, even a 2019 MacBook Pros, one of the biggest gate issue with them is the display. So the reason why I got this MacBook is not because I'm just using it for fun. It's actually a replacement for my sister's 2017 MacBook Pro right here. Exactly the same, just in space gray color. The issue with this is that the display no longer works. No matter how much I press on this, no matter how much I try to use this, the display just refuses to work. The issue is the flex cable, which is located right by the heatsink, heats up over time to the point where they get so brittle. And so essentially it's a ticking bomb. So every time you close the lid, open the lid, close the lid, open the lid, and with that brittle flex cable, it will basically get to that point where the cable can no longer hold itself and just falls apart. So this is mom's computer. As you can see, every time you open the laptop, these two cables move. Actually, there's 4 of them. And over time, because of the heat right here, that's why you don't let your computer overheat, these become fragile, and it got to the point where it has split in half. You can see that right there. Which is exactly what happened with my sister's MacBook Pro here. So I found this cheap replacement for now. I am gonna get her an M4 MacBook Air next month, just saving up for that. I'm not rich. These MacBook parts-wise are so freaking expensive. It doesn't make sense to replace just the display itself because the display alone cost about $100. The whole MacBook is around $150 if you get a good deal. It doesn't make sense to really buy just the display alone, hence why this MacBook right here is mechanically totaled. For the sake of thinness, Apple had sacrificed a lot of reliability. So every time I restart this thing, I believe the CPU goes to 100%, and because it's going to 100%, that battery voltage just cannot keep up with it. So you'll see in a bit, this thing will just shut down randomly. Let's take a look at this real quick right now. And it's dead. Replacement wise, I have this Ninja battery right here from Amazon. Link will be down in the description. This is a replacement with good reviews, so hopefully this thing will work well. It is a bit tricky when it comes to removing the battery in this. You do have to remove the trackpad and all other things with this MacBook right here, but it's okay. We'll get to it. This is my first time replacing a battery from this generation of MacBooks, so if I messed up, you guys will be the first ones to see. Alright, so this is my first time using it. We'll see what happens with this. I hope there's no damage, so we don't go because it's slowly passing off. So hard is it? Gotta be careful with that. I forgot I have some cables over here. Hopefully I don't ruin it. But now we have kind of it. We need to slide. Oh gosh. Anti-DIY. So again, you got clips right here, holding into place. And you need to be careful because this is the Force Touch trackpad cable right here. And so as you pry it open, you could see you might potentially mess around with it, especially if you have a metal tool, which I highly recommend not to do. You need something thick and plastic like this one so it doesn't scratch the metal, as well as doesn't really ruin any of these fragile cables. Looks like everything is clean. No signs of liquid damage. As you can see, those are very white dots right there, or white stickers, which means it hasn't been tampered with. Good news. And then this is the cable I was talking about. This right here. Over time, they get frail and fragile with the heat from the CPU coming out on this sink right here. It literally just makes it brittle enough to the point where one little open of the lid can really ruin it all. So we have 10 screws right here. First things first, we need to remove these screws in order to remove the Force Touch trackpad. Well, you know what's funny? I realized this is a completely different screw. Another tactic I wasn't trying to force, just so we can't open this thing on our own. I need to take it to a shop of some sort, or consider it certified. Remover right here. You need to be careful. These are very brittle, and I did not want to cause any inconvenience. Ooh, okay, great. All right, trackpad out. Oh, oh my God, that is ridiculously. That is nasty. That is really, really nasty. Oh my gosh. Okay, I need to clean this up before I even get any further. That is a lot of hair. Who the frick sheds that much? Okay, that was just ridiculous. That was a lot of hair. Must be dogs. But, you know, that also tells you a lot of these older MacBooks where their environment was. So go ahead and place it right here. Or lift up this metal bit. Make sure it doesn't make contact. And then we can take out the battery. Just like the last MacBook, once you last video, this has adhesive on the battery into place. Now you can see how this is thick enough to hold it through. So I'm not using anything through to hold the battery in place. But no MacBook, Apple decided, yeah, glue will be a fantastic idea. Adhesive will be a fantastic idea. Every time, yes, it keeps up. It gets stickier, stickier, stickier until you get it out with it with just your hands alone. So you're gonna need a lot of tools, aka this plastic right here. Throw this away safely and not ruining the environment. We need this wire. Okay, so I would remove these strips. Yeah, do have to. Now I'm not really too concerned about this not moving around. See the line. Okay. Make sure this lock in place so. Then we make sure this is in the right place. Can I? Uh-oh. Okay, great. I was worried that I couldn't use a trackpad. I don't know why this thing just keeps turning on every time you know what, let's just leave it. You guys saw how it wasn't really particularly hard, but it did require quite a bit of multiple different types of screws. In order for me to replace the thermal paste, I have to take off the logic board. And personally, I am not a big fan of messing around with this specific generation of MacBook Pros because I have to take off the logic board. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and blast this off with air compressor. And thank you, Apple, for reminding me that it is indeed tax day today. But let's take a look at that battery. Yeah, look at that. Normal health battery-wise. I love how they actually show you the battery health right here. It says normal. Let's go to About This Mac, more info. Let's scroll down to the system report right here, and this should have less than 1 cycle count. This is really a fully restored 2017 MacBook Pro here. Now, one of the issues with this one, specifically for me so far I've experienced, this MacBook right here has some keyboard issues where it would accidentally press something. We have some sticky keyboard right here, and I don't think I can fix that personally unless we really pry this thing open. Sticky keys. Oh. That one's pretty bad. Let's go ahead and see how the speaker sounds, because let's make sure if that even works. In my personal opinion, these newer MacBooks, aka this Touch Bar USB-C generation, the speakers by far, the difference between this and the previous generation of this is really significant. I mean, take a listen. What is going on, everybody? My name's Earl here, and what I have here is a late
2013 15-inch MacBook Pro.
Yeah. Really loud. Really good. Let's go ahead and browse some internet. This has 8 gigabytes of RAM, which is fine. Web browsing experience on this MacBook, not an issue. I mean, you can see how it is a workable machine even in 2025. You can browse the internet, buy an iPhone or something, go to YouTube, go to whatever you want. And, you know, that's really the thing about these MacBooks is that there's really no issues when it comes to browsing the internet. Even on a 2011 machine, you could still use it using OpenCore Legacy Patcher. And so I think these MacBooks will be good for a very long time. And in fact, 2017 was quite a bit of a long time ago. If you still have this MacBook, and if you don't have that display gate issue with the flex cable or the measly, one of the worst keyboards I've ever felt in my whole entire life, but at the same time satisfying, I highly suggest trying to avoid these because you already have seen what I have to deal with this MacBook, unfortunately. Oh, Kaby Lake. I guess this is called a Kaby Lake right here. This MacBook has a Kaby Lake processor with 2100 megahertz of RAM. So DDR3 is still? Really? I'm quite surprised that this is still DDR3. Scroll down over here, discontinued in 2019. So it had quite a bit of a good run. Another thing with this is that you could upgrade the storage. This is the non-touch bar model of MacBooks. You can theoretically upgrade it to whatever you want. There's adapters for it on Amazon, and I was really debating if I should do that for this MacBook, but considering we already have some plethora of issues, such as the keyboard right here, I figured it wouldn't be a smart decision. In fact, this being a 256 gigabyte, I think that's plenty enough. Enough reading the brochure. I think all in all, this MacBook right here is a really, well, wouldn't say a good value proposition, especially with all that unreliability issues. Well, this is getting a bit ridiculous, but now I'm supposed to turn it on the other side, according to Apple. Oh man, this is gonna drive me crazy. This is not working. Okay, that seems to be better, but okay, so I'm using compressor as well as a toothbrush right here to brush it on each side and blow all the dust out, which you can see. Okay, so I've cleaned up everything pretty much on this keyboard as much as I could. Let's do a test type. This is a test of the cleaned keyboard. You've seen this, folks? Not working. Yeah. I've literally spent 15 minutes trying to clean this dang keyboard, and it looks a lot cleaner, that's for sure. Far less dust, but again, tolerances on this is way too tight. I'm a bit in the middle between liking it and disliking it, because the dislikes in the past with the USB-C and, you know, the limited access to ports, as you can see, there's only one side on this specific non-touch bar MacBook. That's no longer really an issue because we have USB-C all over the place, even on the iPhones now. And look at this, same thickness, which is absolutely insane. You should take a look at that right there. You know, the thing really bogs down with these 2016, 2017, 2018 non-touch bar and touch bar MacBooks is really just the reliability. And you cannot use a computer without a fully functional keyboard. I mean, yeah, you can, you know, maybe you can get an external keyboard like this one right here, but that just doesn't make sense and it defeats the purpose of a laptop. And you guys saw I have some sticky issues on my keys, so you already know that this is a very common issue, unfortunately. Cleaning this right here maybe could solve that issue. The tolerances of these keys are just so thin and so delicate, and that is really by design. That's a design error by Apple because they were focusing so much on thinness instead of actual usability of the product itself, they had some more issues, such as the display flex cable, which goes bad over time because it gets brittle every time you open the lid, close the lid, open the lid, close the lid. There's just all in all more issues coming up with these MacBooks as they age. I say these are not worth it. Now, unless you want to use these MacBooks for the sole purpose as a desktop, meaning you just plug in a hub right here on the USB-C with mouse and keyboard and put it on the display, then maybe it might not be too bad. And we could actually test that out right now. Let's see if I can. It might not be useful as a laptop, but you could use it as a desktop. But then there's another question. These performance-wise are just not worth it. I mean, you know, speaking of performance, these are dual cores, quad cores, 15-inch wise, and they have limited amount of access memory. I'm already having trouble with my 32 gigabytes of memory on my Razer Blade, let alone an 8 gigabytes right here for some editing, for some photo editing, Word document and whatnot. Eventually, these will become really unusable. And that's really the unfortunate thing about these machines. The ironic thing is that the 2012 probably lasts longer because it had upgradable RAM, upgradable storage, upgradable whatever, and if something breaks, you could easily access it because the parts are readily available. And so this isn't really a good value proposition. In my personal opinion, if you already have one, just wait until it dies and recycle it. Really not worth it. I'll see you guys later. Peace out. And as you can see, my mom doesn't really use her computer that much. And as you can see, not a lot of shows of wear and tear. So every time you slowly open the laptop, these cables move over time. And as you can see, this is very close to the heatsink, which runs incredibly hot because these are good old Intel MacBooks. I think what worries me about these two 2017 MacBooks is the fact that even if I replace this specific MacBook that has the issue of the FlexGate, I'm not sure how long it will last with the new replacement display, because it is still, you know, the cable is still fragile, it's still frail, and especially being a 2017, I'm sure things are just getting older and older and older, and it gets harder. But we'll see what happens, and hopefully we could remedy that and give this thing a second chance.